following contest is scheduled for one fall. Making their way to the ring, World Wrestling Flashbacks!
Welcome to World Wrestling Flashbacks. I'm John, and today I'm joined by wrestling legend, wrestling icon, Mr. Justin Credible. What's going on, Justin? How you doing, man?
What's going on, guys? I'm doing fantastic. Hanging in there, just chilling. How you guys doing?
Doing good. The pandemic has got everybody, trapped indoors, can't work, and all that stuff. Everything's going. How are things with you? Things are going good, or?
Things are going probably as good as they can, giving everything that's happened to all of us, not just entertainment business in general, but quite a bit, all of us really. So yeah, it's been rough. I haven't wrestled a match in a very long time, but this in about 8 days, I get to do a convention, autograph comic book kind of convention in Baltimore, and I also have a pilot that I'm shooting on Saturday for a reality show, almost like Fear Factor style thing that we're doing with the little independent company shooting this thing. So, just trying to stay busy, but I just can't wait to get back in front of crowds and, just to do it like, old school style, just, in the ring around fans. I miss it to death,
Yeah, man. I'm not trying to harp too much on the past, but I want to run through your career.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
So take me back to working with Keith Hart and the Hart Brothers training camp.
Sure.
I know it's going way back, but
that's okay.
You started working with Jericho and Lance Storm. What was it like during that time? And did you get to work with Stu Hart at all? And did he rip your arm out of your socket?
I graduated high school, 17 years old in 1991. And after that, I kind of knew I wasn't going to college. That wasn't my immediate plan. So I worked for maybe 6 months, save up money, when, summer of 92 rolled around. I worked for about 8 months, saved up money, and went to Calgary, Alberta, Canada, where, that was really before, this is pre-internet, really before, everything was so available to the world, with, social media, and you could just connect. This was the old school days of writing letters and, calling people and trying to just connect. And I finally got a hold of the Hearts, and I sent $3,000 US at the time.
It's a lot of money. It's like $7,000 today, right?
It was a lot of money for, I was just a kid too,
Yeah.
I mean, I was just a kid, but, I sent that money up there, and also had to buy a plane ticket, by the way, I'm a Connecticut guy, about an hour and a half from the city, New York City. So, going all the way to Calgary, which was crazy. I'd never been away from home, and I just made that adventure to kind of try to follow my dreams. And on my 19th birthday, October 16th, 1992, I had my first pro wrestling match in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, after I graduated from the Hearts camp. And it's been, going that way ever since, just trying to grind in this crazy, beautiful world of pro wrestling,
So from, I believe, 94 to 97, you were with WWF.
Yep.
And they had you doing everybody under the sun, every different type of these enhancement characters, if you want to say. But those are crucial guys,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We need people to make, the Hogans look strong. Right? Those are so important. So you're with WWF from 94 to 97, and they don't release you, if I'm not mistaken. They kind of just have this roster that's just so bloated. You're like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm going to go be somewhere where I can be viewed as a star. So is that where ECW comes along? What was going through your head, leaving WWF in 97?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was such an amazing time. If you really think about it, right? I mean, I was still a kid. I'm like 22, 23. I've already had 3 years in the WWF or WWE, as a kid. And then I finally, my skills, like around 97 after the Aldo thing, I knew that wasn't going to be a permanent gimmick, right? But my skills, like I was on the road a lot. I was working with newcomers like Stone Cold Steve Austin and all these
little guys.
Right. But you know what I'm saying?
I don't know who you're talking about.
I was working right, but you know what I mean? I was working with so many talented people, and deep down in myself, I'm like, I want more, right? And I knew that this this path wasn't going to take me there. And I went to Vince and I'm like, I want to do more. And he was cool with it, because I was starting to get positive reviews from, house show matches and so forth. You could just tell as you start progressing as an entertainer, you know what I mean? And in this world of, I hate to say, it's a worked, obviously it's not fake, but worked business.
What?
Not like you could, you know what I'm saying? Like I can only control so much of the narrative, right? So and it's starting to get frustrating. So, after a couple of attempts with Vince to not seeing eye to eye, I was like, yo, man, just let me go to, because at the time Scott Hall and Kevin Nash had jumped, and I was good friends with Scott, to WCW to do the NWO, the Outsiders gimmick. And I was like, Scott was always like, dude, just come over here. We'll get you paid at least. I mean, I can't tell you that you're going to be like a huge star, but at least we can get a new set of eyeballs on you. So I said that to Vince, and Vince is like, PJ, with all due respect, he goes, it's not like, Aldo Montoya is going to go over there and ruin the Monday Night Wars. But from a locker room perspective, we can't have, other guys just keep going to the competition. It's just a bad look. He goes, but what I will do is I'll send you to, Lawler's territory, the USWA,
right,
and learn to work as a heel, and we'll bring you back up under another character. Well, I went down there for 6 weeks, did the whole thing. By the way, the Young Rock was also there with me at that time as Flex Cabana.
Yes, Flex Cabana.
Yeah, we were on a couple of shows together. But that's what was going on at the time. But on the last week of my time in Memphis, ECW was down there. My good friend Chris Candido, God rest his soul, was there with Tommy Dreamer, RVD, Sabu, Paul Heyman, etc., because they were doing that angle with ECW and WWE, whatever
the
they were doing.
The original invasion.
Right, with the King and all that stuff. Yep. And Chris, since we worked in the WWF, Aldo, he was Skip. So we were Skip and Sonny. So had been working, and he's like, PJ, you got to come over here, man. He goes, the money's good. There's a lot of opportunities. There's good buzz around it. And I was like, okay. So I spoke to Paul. Paul was down. We repackaged the whole thing. And Paul got my release from Vince because they were working together. And that's how I made that transition from the WWE/WWF at the time to ECW, which was, a wonderful experience, both, professionally, personally. And dude, I was making more money in ECW. I was making $3,000 a week in ECW, wrestling Fridays and Saturdays. $3,000 a week.
You can't beat that.
$12,000 a month. And I'm home. Like, I live in Connecticut. So, Friday night is in New York City, Saturdays in Philly, sleeping at home. And you know what I mean? That's good money.
You're one of those guys that we've heard when we hear Paul Heyman talk about, he loves you. He there's only positive things to say, but you go from, you look at your WWF career and before that, it doesn't scream hardcore wrestling. So what was the change where you're like, you know what, I can make this just incredible guy just this badass motherfucker? Because you were undefeated for your first 3 months in ECW.
It was I was actually really nervous because at the time, even as when you think about like the whole thing that was going on in wrestling, even though I had been to the dance, the big time, I was very nervous because there was a real buzz about ECW. Like they were doing all this air quotes shoot stuff and hardcore stuff, which really wasn't. It was just the perception, and I learned quickly that like everything was just a more intricate style of work. Right. It was more of a psychological work because, believe it or not, WWE was way more physical than ECW. And I know people are going to say you're crazy, but it's true. It really is true. Because when you wrestled guys like Bradshaw or, those big dudes, they would beat your ass.
They are
hard-hitting dudes, man.
Yeah.
But in ECW,
it was the stiffest guys.
Yeah, but in ECW, it was just the perceived work. So, but it was easy. It was just easier. It freed me up. It liberated me. So it was a learning experience for me too, because I hadn't done, mind you, this is 97. I'd only been in the business for 4.5, 5 years. So I'm learning every day. You know what I mean? So it just became a progression of okay, so now I learn this stuff. I learn how to become a brawler, or because I was always more of a, hey, I'll do a, I'm Aldo, I'll do a dive, I'll do some drop kicks, old school white meat baby face, arm drags, cross bodies, so you just start to learn and try other things, experiment. Then the ladder matches and the barbed wire stuff, and it was just cool, man. It was just a really nice time as a performer, to just really learn, dude. It was really cool.
I
Really
love your time in ECW, especially, your matches with Dreamer early on.
Yeah.
One in particular, and I don't really care for the whole card, to be honest with you, the CyberSlam 98. The
Yes.
show I could care less about, but the match you have, the first blood match with Dreamer, is fantastic. It's so fun. And that feud is just awesome to watch.
Yeah.
Especially like through 98. The rivalry you guys have. What was it like working with Tommy a bit there? And during this time, because you both are at your, I would believe, in my opinion, you're at your peaks here as far as what we've seen on TV. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great, and I really was following Tommy and his lead, because he was so cerebral in all of this, and it was just just having fun. I mean, really going from the WWE, where you get 3.5 minutes on a Monday Night Raw to go out there and get squashed, for example, and then you're actually being asked to main event or co-main event or just to be involved. It was so amazing, and it's like, oh, I finally get to play with the big kids, and be part of that. So it was just so much fun, and I always have such a great place in my heart for it, because I was just truly trying to discover what what I mean, like the whole deal. So, there were some pitfalls where, like, oh, I tried something that didn't work, but
You
it's
learned.
just you were learning, and it was such a special time in the business, right? It's like the late 90s, where the Monday Night Wars are going on, ECW's breathing heat on both companies. It was just, everybody was kind of thriving in their own little way. So it was just fun. It was just, God, I mean, boy, this is when you're getting old. I'm 47 today, but
That's not old.
no, but to talk about those days, like, it still brings out the little kid in me, like, wow.
Yeah,
I mean,
of course.
because we'll never see those times again, unfortunately, just
Right.
because the landscape was so different, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm grateful now that AEW is a thing, because now we have at least 2 companies, and we have Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling, a lot of other stuff, cool stuff going on. But back then it was ECW, WWE, and WCW, and nothing else really. The indies weren't really a thing yet.
Right.
This is pre-social media, so it was just so much fun. So much fun.
I just
dude.
want to say something real quick, John,
Yeah.
if I may. As a kid, because I mean, during like the Monday Night Wars and the Attitude Era, and like when ECW was like fired up, I was like 8, 9, 10 at the time, and it was such a. Whenever we would see footage, it was scary, like as a child.
Yeah.
And it was like everything
Yeah.
was like VHS quality, and
It
it
was
was like,
almost like a
how are
snuff
these
film.
people seeing this? Like, how are
Right.
people finding out about this? And because, like you're saying, the internet at that point is like in its infancy, so it's not like we're on social media then, especially as children.
Yeah.
But we're like, who are these? Like, we knew who you were, and we knew who
Right.
Taz was, and like Sabu and all these guys. But like at the same time, we're like, how do we know about these guys?
It was
How
just
do
like
other people know about
osmosis.
this? It was just inherently in us, and we wanted to know more. But it was like this forbidden, like, whoa, you can't watch that. It's like way too intense. So by the time we got old enough to watch it was like, holy shit, these guys are
And
fucking insane.
But it was better that way, right? It was almost
Yeah.
like it wasn't taboo, of course, but it
Right.
felt like it, right? It's like you're watching a snuff film or something.
That's
know what I
it.
mean?
That's it. Yeah.
But
totally.
it wasn't. It was just that's what really like an independent movie, right?
Yeah.
Small budget. We didn't have the fancy cameras, but we had great people working, passionate people, and we were presenting a different style of professional wrestling. And I think that was the beauty of it.
Yeah.
And that was the attraction of it, right? You had the real glossy and shiny product of the WWF and WCW. Both were different, but still nice, glossy, well done. And then there was ECW, which just was very raw. But what was cool about it was you got to see Brian Pillman. You got to see Steve Austin. Where all of these guys were kind of coming through right before they hit wherever they were going to go, right? So it was almost like a launching pad into it was like a look into the future, which of course then would become Ring of Honor and other places that, but it was just like a really special time where like, with anything else, like I think today's problem in wrestling, and again, I'm not to say that there's like a big problem in wrestling, but those little moments of like, we're almost too spoiled. Like it was better when we had less access because, you had to stay up at
Everybody needs that instant gratification now. Everybody needs that instant gratification now. And if once they get it, they can move on to the next,
And the thing is too, with anything, you overexpose yourself real quick. When I don't like watching the old ECW stuff, because if you do go back and watch it, you'll kind of cringe and be like, ooh, that wasn't that good at all.
But the same thing can have to be said for like, the Attitude Era. Everybody has their shit,
Of course, but it was just the fact that, it felt forbidden. Like you guys said, it felt like cool. It felt it felt very punk rock kind of a thing,
was. Absolutely.
And that's all I'm trying to say. It was like a different thing, which, today, unfortunately, it just doesn't exist because, like, okay, everybody has a TV show now, and with the greatness of like YouTube, if you have some, a good enough camera and some production skills, you could put together a good show on YouTube, right? AEW's done a great job. Of course, they're a bigger production, but still, ECW, if we had YouTube, right? I remember Paul having to like, there were weeks where, I can't, send the show to Florida because I can't pay the $3,000 a week it takes to run ECW in Florida.
Wow.
You know what I mean? That's how we had to make, like, I was in the trenches with that stuff. Like, Paul, we literally had to like make the tapes specifically for certain markets, send them out and make sure the checks cleared before they aired them. You know what I mean? Now you would just be able to upload it to YouTube. Okay, we got a finished product. Here it goes. Boom. Like we were literally, sending tapes to different cable companies around the country. And it's crazy, right? I mean, because we were really, we weren't signed to deals. It was, what do you call that stuff? Like, like how you buy advertisement, right? That's what it was, like late night advertisement on cable.
Right.
That's what it was. It's like we didn't have a cable deal. We would buy like, okay, 2 a.m. in New York. It's like $2,000 to air a 1 hour commercial, like an infomercial. They call it
public access. It's bordering on it, right?
Right. It wasn't public access, but it's like, okay, like at 2 a.m. on Saturday, your local cable company in New York City starts airing infomercials, like, whatever stuff that they're trying to sell, the Ginsu knives or whatever.
Right.
But instead it would be the ECW infomercial, which was our weekly broadcast, but we had to pay for every market we were in. So every market, like we had market specifics in Chicago, LA, Florida, the Carolina, you know what I mean? New York, Connecticut, etc. So it was just a different time, like today it's like, okay, just upload your show to YouTube. But I think having that, like so many college kids tell me, I'd go out and party and at 2 a.m. we'd get back, or 3 a.m. and there'd be ECW on, as they're just coming in. It was just like the perfect storm. You know what I mean?
That sounds amazing. Just coming in hungover, maybe have some pizza with you and you just sit down.
Thank you. Yeah.
And it's just beautiful violence at the same time.
Just silly, beautiful violence. Exactly.
But it was such a cool place, like, because all you guys were able to develop seemingly, like, and with the help of Paul Heyman, like your own identities, whereas it seemed like with WWF, in your case, you're kind of just handed, a gimmick or a name, and you just got to roll with it, and hopefully you're able to own it, and then hopefully they're going to market it. But in that case with ECW, it's like the ball's in your court, man. Like if you want to take it and run, like it's all on you. That's what it seems like from an outsider perspective, which is awesome.
And it really was, because like, if you think about it, Paul wanted, as I got there, when I got there in 97, it was starting to gain traction. Like the attendances were growing. The audience was growing. Pay-per-view, we were, I think I was on every pay-per-view after the first. I was not on the first one, but after the first one, I came on board and I did all of them afterwards. So I was on all but the first pay-per-view. And it was just a great opportunity, but Paul was looking for guys not necessarily with huge success, but guys that were professionals. Like, you know, he didn't care about Aldo, but he cared that, hey, here's a 23, 24-year-old kid who has worked for Vince's TV. So it's not like I'm a mark. I've worked.
You're not green. You know, you've already established yourself. Yeah.
But just like knowing how to, you know, because even though I was Aldo, still I know how to work live television. I know how to get cues. Like, all right, we're going to commercial in 3, 2, 1, and the guys there had not. I mean, some had Shane Douglas, Bam Bam, Bigelow, Chris Candido. There were a lot of good guys, but he was looking for the future, like a deeper roster. Even Sabu had limited run-ins with being on live television at that moment, you know, RVD, you know, and then eventually he just wanted to prepare himself with as many professional people as he could. And he figured, look, the kid's not horrible. He's reliable. He's got a good look. He's healthy, decent shape. We could work with it. You know what I mean? That's all they were looking for, is just like, let's get a good crew together to kind of, you know, move forward. And that's really what it was. And it was just a great time, because there's nothing more liberating and more free when you're working for something that you care about. I mean, to work for ECW was like, I could not wait to get there every day to work, because there was no, like when I was in WWE, whether it was in the 90s or in the 2000s, last time I was there was 2007 for the fake ECW.
We'll get to that.
You know, sure. But it was just like, it's work. You know, you really are not being creative. Then with those guys, with ECW in that time, you go to work and you're like, how could we make this the best possible? And nobody's going to try to stop you. Like, I remember watching a match at the ECW arena when I became champion. And I think it was Balls and Axel. First match, they did like 25 minutes in the first opening match. And I was the main event, last on the card. And they got color. They're bleeding, doing all these crazy things.
Too early for that. It's too early.
And I go to Paul. I'm like, Paul, what? I'm doing my best Shawn Michaels, like trying to kind of be like a prick about it. You know, what the fuck? Yeah. I gotta fucking be out there main event, and like, how am I gonna? Well, PJ, if you can't follow them, maybe you shouldn't be in the main event. And I was like, touche. Okay, I feel you.
Point there, man.
Well, he did, yeah. And I understood
you gotta outwork him.
But that's what he was trying to do. It was like, it was open for, and it smartened me up. It was like, okay, we're pushing one another, not to be dangerous or anything silly, but we're really going to challenge each other to be better. You know what I mean? I'm not saying stunts or silly stuff, but just like, hey man, figure it out. Right. And it was just a cool way to think about it and to work. So it was always fun. Like, if you really loved the business, it wasn't a free ride for sure, because you had to you had to lace them up tight every night, you know, to go to work. But it was a great environment for just, you know, to have fun and really love and ply your craft. You know, it was cool stuff.
What was the difference with like the camaraderie or like the locker room kind of vibe between like both companies? Because it seems like ECW was like you guys are the underdog, and
sure, obviously
you're not going to compete in terms of like you're going to outdo WWF at the time financially or whatever, but it, like, you guys had heart, you know, there was something like really deep there. So like, what was sort of the difference between like the vibe with the boys and everyone?
Yeah. It was really that. It was, Paul was, everybody says, you know, Heyman was a great booker, great, you know, storyteller, whatever you want to call it. He was great. I mean, I don't even say great. He was good. But he was so, no, I'm serious. And I mean, I can go deeper, but he was very, he wasn't as hands-on as people may think. He came up with good concepts. The more ECW became a bigger thing, he was stretched very thin, where, you know, he came up with concepts, and then we kind of had to take it from him and make it what we could. But what I'm trying to say is, but he was the greatest motivator, and which is the best thing you could do to a performer. He would make you believe in you, whether it was me or anyone else. He made you believe, PJ or whomever, Steve Corino, Jerry Lynn, Tommy Dreamer, Sandman, whoever, Shane Douglas. He made you believe that we could do this. you know what I mean? Like, and he would pump you up and give you all the confidence and say, you know, we're doing this together. Like, but it's your job, you know, meaning me or whomever else he's talking to kind of bring your shit. Like, we all had to bring it to make it work. So he was, his greatest strength was, like, better than creative was his motivation. Like, he motivated you to, like, you know, he can make you run through a fucking brick wall because he was that good. Like,
he made
you know what I
you
mean?
into a workhorse. You were the champion for 161 days, one of the longest reigning ECW champions. And it's not like you picked the strap up off of nobody. You beat Dreamer for that title, and you dropped it to Jerry Lynn. So it's not like, you know, they really, you know, went with you there.
Yeah, but it was great. But that's the point is, like, it was just so much fun. Like, you're really living in that moment of creative. I didn't care if I won or lost. At that point, it didn't matter. It was just, how do we make that story the best it could be? You know, I never questioned whether I won or lost anything. It was just like, because I knew Paul would always have a place for all of us, kind of, in a way. It's like, so, you know, my money's, you know, I get my $3,000 every week. How can I make it the best it could possibly be for my role at this moment? Like if it's a movie or anything else, like, this is my role. How could I just rock it and knock it out the park? And which, again, liberates you to not think or not be selfish. Because a lot of guys in WWE or even in AEW are more worried about, shit, am I getting screwed here? How am I going to look? We all believe, because we all kind of had a little hand in it. So it's like, as long as we're on the team, we'll be okay. So let's just make this the best we can. And everybody was kind of like on the same page with it. So that's what was so cool. You know what I mean?
I know money was very tight during that time in ECW. There was a lot of people, you know, saying they weren't paid at the time. Obviously, all those things got corrected once WWE purchased it. From what I know, all those people got paid off or paid out. But did you ever have any issues with that with, you know, Paul? It seems like I didn't see your name on any of these lists, like saying.
I the one and only time he bounced one check to me, and I was a little bit upset, you know, but it wasn't a huge deal. I went to his house, and this is a true story. Ask my wife, and even my kids will tell you this one. And I went to his house because I used to have two residences. I lived my mother-in-law's house in New Jersey and my own house in Connecticut. But just because, like, wherever you were on the road, like, if we were closer to Boston, we'd stay in Connecticut. If we were down Philly, Jersey, etc., we'd stay in Jersey. So in the interim, when you found out he bounced a check to me, I stopped by his house, called him. You know, this is like still pre-cell phone, kind of, like we had the flip phones.
Right.
But it wasn't like today, you know. So I stopped by his house. He comes out. He cuts me a new check and gave me 2 ounces of pot to make up for it. So, and it all cleared. So at the end of the day, I got 2 ounces of free pot, and the check was made good. So there we go.
I would take that deal. That sounds amazing.
It was a hell of a deal, you know. But no, I mean, but some people, but there again, I'm saying it in jest in that, yes, it did really happen like that. But Paul knew, like, yes, he was having a hard time. But business was good. I think with Paul, he was like trying to make up for the bad years where there was no money. And I think, like, it all started to catch up with him, because I think he said it, and I find it to be true with my research on it. The year we went out of business, we were actually the most successful on paper than we had ever been.
Had the video game come out that was successful?
Yeah. And the audiences, we were like doing 3,000 a night, 3,500 Hammerstein ballrooms, back-to-back pay-per-views sold out. It was just all that backed up shit from the 95s and the, you know, whatever other bad business dealings that he had to, because he did a lot of shit. I mean, I know for a fact he was taking out like mafia style money with points at some point.
That's scary.
My wife, no, dude, my wife
That's
used
scary.
to work. No, listen, my wife used to work merchandise for Dreamer. Dreamer was in charge of the merchandise, and we were in Chicago for one of the first time we were in Chicago. It was like a huge pay-per-view. I think I wrestled Sabu. It was Anarchy Rules '98. And my wife did merch, and she literally counted all the money, brought in all the shirts, did the inventory. We made $70,000 in cash. And Steve Carroll, who was one of Paul's financiers, Dreamer just said, if this guy comes up to you and asks you for money, give it to him. She handed him $50,000 in a manila envelope from that night. That was the kind of shit that was happening all the time. You know,
that's
and
insane.
it's like, there's just side, you know what I mean? It's like, here you go. This is, you know, there was a lot of money being, a lot of backdoor shit, you know, and I don't even know. I know what happened. I don't know
70,000. Everybody should get paid that night.
I don't know where that stuff was going, but I'm just saying that's, you know, we saw it happen, you know. But anyways, it was just, you know, it was just crazy. I just wish, to some extent, the wrestling business could go back to just having that kind of impact and fun. I mean, it was just, man, I just can't wait to get this pandemic shit over with and just start wrestling in front of live people. You know, I miss the fans so much. I mean, this is the longest I've ever, you know, since I was 19 years old, I haven't wrestled in front of, you know, a crowd in so long. It's like, dude, I'm ready to go. Even though I don't wrestle that much more, you know, that much anymore.
Right.
I just got to get out there in front of somebody. You know, you just really miss it, you know.
We want to be there, honestly, when you eventually get back out there. That's
I
the
can't
goal,
wait.
that we're there.
I can't wait. Yeah.
So ECW closes 2001. You go back to WWF. This time more established. You have a name behind you. And you go join X Factor with Albert and X-Pac.
Yeah.
Not regarded as a team that's loved. Has that Uncle Kracker song I remember.
That was my doing, by the way.
That was your doing? Explain yourself.
I will. I was good friends with Bob Ritchie, aka Kid Rock.
Oh wow.
And Joey C. Remember the little dude?
Yes, I
Joey
can't
C?
forget Joe C. Love
he
him.
was a huge wrestling fan, and I'd become friends with Bob and Joey and Uncle Kracker, Matt. His brother Mike was my manager, and he was managing people in Bob's band, Kid Rock's band. So you know, I just had, you know, Kracker was putting out his new solo record, and I'm like, yo, we could use something like, fuck that old school WWF bullshit stuff. Like, we can get something fresh, something coming out. So it was like, you know, Mike's like, yo, my brother Matt, Cracker's coming out with his solo record. He'll throw you that song from the album. We'll promote it. And, you know, I pitched it to Stephanie, and she said, cool. We're just trying to get heel heat, like, you know, just something different, right?
Yeah, it worked,
I mean,
honestly.
It is 2001, you know, It's like, you know, so I was like, fuck it, why not, right? I mean, I just figured it was, you know, I'm playing with at least recording artists, right? I'm in that little, just trying to think outside the box. So yeah, that's where that all stemmed from. And actually, I still, you know, to this day communicate with those guys. It was just that's what wrestling was then, right? It was like that, you know, super white trash kind of ghetto fabulous from Detroit, Michigan, you know?
The song just goes off the rails. I feel like it starts out with this like acoustic country banger, and then out of nowhere, now you do with the X Factor. Out of nowhere,
it's typical, that typical trashy, you know.
Yeah, hell yeah.
It's just funny. It was meant to be heat. Like, I wanted to get heat for it,
and you did, because if people would hear that song, it would just be this groan. Honestly, like, oh god.
Well, the thing was too. Pac had just come out of doing DX.
Yes.
So I was like, when we were like, you know, it's like, okay, I'm working with him, and we were friends from before. When I was Aldo, he was 1, 2, 3. So I'm like, dude, this could be really good. And we were supposed to win the tag belt and everything.
I know, you guys went for the tag. That was the whole thing, was keep going for them until I believe you turned on Pac, was it, to join the alliance? Was it?
Yeah. And that kind of killed it, because we didn't know, like, nobody knew, you know, the alliance just it killed whatever storylines. I think Pac eventually, because he had to get surgery or something. It just, you know, it was a little bit of a botch deal, whatever. I get it. But things are moving so fast, because what really not killed, but it changed the business forever was pro wrestling went from 3 wrestling companies. I was lucky to even have a job, right? WCW's not around. ECW's not around. I'm lucky to just have a gig, right? Because there's a lot of amazing wrestlers, you know, uncertainty, right? A lot of uncertain stuff happening. So not only storyline wise did it hurt what was originally planned for the X Factor, but just I was just like, at that point, I'm going to shut the F up and just do the best I can. I'm lucky
these
to be
checks.
here.
Get these checks. And I understand
Yeah.
because you go from a big fish in at ECW, and then you're in WWE. You have, like you just said, 3 companies, all those guys fighting for TV time on 2 shows. That's only 4 hours a week, Raw and SmackDown.
And you got to grind, man. And you had guys like Guerrero, Chavo Guerrero too. Like like Chavo was fighting for time, and he's like, I know he's not
amazing,
but he's one of the best, right?
Yeah.
And there were so many guys, like we're all vying for just Sunday Night Heat. Like, you're on Sunday Night Heat, you're good.
I recall them giving you a storyline, and I wish it played out a little bit better, where Vince was firing you, and Ric Flair had debuted as the Raw GM, and he was able to save your job. And rewatching those, you would expect them to give you kind of like that push you had in ECW, but they put you on Heat.
Yeah.
What the hell?
I mean, that's I mean, you can only do what they you know what I mean? Right. Like, it shows, and it's not just
they build the ceiling for you, which sucks.
Yeah, it really does. Like, and it's at that point, like, you can only do what you're allowed to, right? Which is frustrating, because I knew where my ceiling was, or at least I thought I did. Hey man, look, I was just happy to be in the game at that point. Like, they kind of break you down to believing that, but I really thought I could have been more. But hey, I was just happy to be there.
I will say this, and your release in 2001, 2002, I'm trying to blank on the year.
2000, late 2002. I think Christmas time, actually. I remember getting the call.
Son of a bitch. Oh, they always do it around Christmas.
I didn't tell my wife until after the new year, because I was like, we just bought a new house.
You are a smart man, honestly. But
to this
it
day,
was not because of you. It was not because of you as a performer. It was. I always thought it was because of just the infrastructure. Go on if you care to.
I don't want to go crazy into it.
Don't go crazy.
I was heavily medicating myself, and me and a former tag team champion with crazy hair, blue hair, Hardy, Jeff, we missed some house shows, and we were fucked up. They sent Jeff home. They sent me packing.
Right.
Because I wasn't that guy. But whatever, I did it to myself, because I could have been there. I could have been one of those guys collecting a check and working, because I've always had a great relationship with Vince in the office. So that was totally on me. I totally, unfortunately, fucked up.
It happens, man. But you know what? It doesn't kill you, makes you stronger. Honestly,
yeah.
At the end of the day, you have this story behind you. It's amazing, and your story's not done being written either. From
I mean, from a wrestling perspective,
you're like, come on, let me sugarcoat it a little bit here, man.
I'm not from wrestling. I'm done, but
I get it.
In some other point of life, it's not. But in wrestling, it is. Because
right.
I don't even want it anymore from that level. What I would love to do is love to get into the backstage part of it,
right.
Because I mean, like, I'm part of that Jericho style club. It's like, I saw his interview on Austin's podcast, and Steve and I are still good friends. I've done his podcast a couple times, actually. And it's like, we not a lot of people that have been in the business for 30 years, which I'm right there on the cusp of. Next year will be 30 years for me of being in ECW, WWF, all these places, and still having the wherewithal to kind of, so I honestly think I could help the next generation of athlete coming in, because of the unique perspective of, like, lived through the Attitude Era, lived through the ECW era, and the new generation and all this other stuff, to just help kind of groom or guide,
I'm surprised to learn that you aren't in a like a teacher role. You would be in honestly incredible. There's so much to learn from you, because you do come from that, that Lance Storm, Chris Jericho, Calgary days.
Yeah. I mean, I hope someday. I don't know when if or when that opportunity would present itself, but I hope it does, because I think that's where I could do something, right, with my knowledge, because at the end of the day, I love this stuff, right? I mean, it still consumes me on a daily basis. I do podcasts daily. I work for Vince Russo, do the AEW review show for him. And, you know, it's still something that I'm very much, you know, a part of. I love this business.
Right.
So it would be cool to somehow get involved, you know, but we'll see where that, you know, if that ever comes.
So
you know?
I want to touch on more so a little bit of your career after you leave WWF, and then you go work with XPW and Rob Zakari. I've heard good stories about Rob, but a lot more terrible. I'm not asking you to shoot on anybody, but
I will. It's no big deal.
What was your time in XPW?
It was nothing crazy or controversial,
right.
In my experience.
Yes.
He was a porn guy out of LA, which I didn't know much about his porn stuff. I mean, I knew what he did, etc. All I knew was he was paying me $1,500 a gig, which is pretty good.
Not bad.
You know?
Yeah.
No.
Seriously.
So that's kind of, you know, as long as the checks were clearing, they were very much trying to do a ripoff of ECW. He'd been around.
Oh yeah.
I had met him through, I think, Bubba and Big Dick Dudley back in the day, where they were boys with him. And he'd come into the locker room. I remember meeting him, you know, way before XPW. So, and then they just kind of, when that happened, where ECW kind of was not a thing anymore, they just took that ball and like, we're going to start running Philly and we're going to do LA. And it almost worked. Unfortunately, they had no clue what the fuck they were doing.
No.
They
setting dudes on
clue.
fire. They set somebody on fire.
They had no clue what they were doing. If they had just, you know, kind of slowed their roll. And they had Shane Douglas, who I love. He's still to this day one of my best friends. I love Shane to death. But I think everybody just gets so wrapped up in themselves at those moments. It's like that hubris, like where you're just so cocky and into, you know, you're thinking, I don't know, man, but I just wish somebody could have said, look, you got the opportunity now, because, you know, once ECW went out of the picture, WCW, like we had talked about, is now not a thing. Vince owns the whole show. XPW, if they were smart, could have, like, you know, slowly started to do what Ring of Honor was trying to do, is like, all right, let's build that Philadelphia, New York, Chicago territory slowly, and just kind of, you know, bring in people that kind of know what to do and go slow, except they just started to go balls out and doing stupid, crazy shit, like trying to do shock effect stuff, like, you know,
right.
like porn, like wrestling porn, right? Instead of doing something with stories or whatever, they were doing death match. I don't know. I was never a death match guy, even though it's funny. Like, I'm an ECW guy, but I don't like. I hate death matches. I
don't either. I don't hate death matches, but I've been to CZW tournaments of death, and after a while, it becomes like you see like 4 matches like that in a row. You're just
it's
gratuitous. You don't need it.
Yeah, it is, dude. And if you've seen one, you've seen them all.
Yep.
And it just I don't know. Maybe it's me showing my old side, but wrestling is much more than that. And ECW, I thought, was much more than that. And that's what really made me kind of think, like, I think ECW was more like NWA, old West Texas wrestling, Von Erich style, or NWA style with Dusty. You know what I mean?
Right.
Than just that, like, you know, I hate the light tubes and stuff. It's like these kids are killing themselves, and it's so stupid, because then you're killing it for yourself too. You're making it harder for yourself as a performer. It's like, are you gonna go out there and just go through all these fucking tubes for no reason?
And think about your career 10 years from now. Like, that's cool.
Yeah, there's no long term to that.
And
there can be, but not likely.
No, how much money do you think these guys are making?
Like,
I guarantee you. How much do you think he makes? Just throw. What do you think? I'll tell you.
I would say he would make, let's say, 500 event. No,
not even close, dude.
Really?
He probably gets. I asked my asking price, which is not like it's not a big deal. I asked for 500, and I don't go for less than 5. I guarantee you, he probably gets 250 to 3, which again that's a lot though, right? Because I've been an ECW, WWE 30-year veteran. And that's what guys like Hacksaw gets, right? And other older
Sure.
gentlemen that have been there, the Brutus Beefcakes of the world guys.
Yeah.
So, like, what do you know? How many people know him like that, right? Like, has he
Right.
ever been on
Yeah.
national television?
No.
So, like, so I think like those guys they're trying to create a brand, and I get it, and they're doing the best they can. I'm not dissing any of them, but it's only so much you can do, and they're killing themselves to just to be able to get that, and they're not getting that all the time. Guarantee you. I mean, I could be way off, and if I am, somebody please correct me and smarten me up, because I'm not trying to be like a dick. I'm just I can't see more.
You
than
have
that,
experience
right?
and you have the knowledge of 30 plus years. I think.
Well, I
you
just
what
know
you're
what
talking
other
about.
I just know what other guys get,
Right.
right? So it's like, I wonder, like, how far is that going to take people? I mean, if that's your goal, cool, dude. God bless you. Get yours, but you can't make a living on 250.
So in 2006, you go back to WWF with the widely more successful, better, stronger EC. I'm totally fucking kidding.
I know.
You go back to ECW in 2006, most notably facing a debuting CM Punk.
Yep.
But you were there very briefly. It seems like.
Yeah.
Why was your run so short there? Were you just like,
I quit. I quit.
I don't blame
quit.
you. I don't blame you.
I had signed a 3-year contract, and it was all of them, mind you, at that time. For the ECW guys were extremely low. They signed all of us, me, Sabu, Sandman, whomever else was there for 52 grand a year as a downside. Like, that's even if we don't call you, that's the least you could make, right? If you don't work after, you sign this, that's what you get. So we got the minimum downside. We're on the road. We're traveling. Money was horrible. And then I start noticing, okay, I put over CM Punk. He's great. I could see him. He's the future. Cool. No problem. Great match with Punk. Put him over. Great. Then I worked with Kurt Angle. Cool. Great. Sabu. Cool. Great. And then it just started I'm seeing a pattern where I'm not winning any matches on ECW whenever we aired it on Tuesday nights or something. And I just, and then I'm like, all right, you're wrestling Balls Mahoney and you win by DQ because he hits you with the chair. So, like, they're just jobbing out the very
that wouldn't
core.
happen in 2000 ECW.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I started to see, like, all right, it was cool for Angle, CM Punk, and a couple, but now I'm noticing you're going to strip everything away from Just Incredible, the character. Right. Yeah. Anything I built up as the former world's heavyweight champion, one of the best ECW heavyweight champions of all time, you're going to take that away from me in the history books. So I said, I called Johnny Ace, who was in charge at the time. I said, nah, man, I'm good. He goes, no, we sent you a ticket, Justin. We need you to come work. I said, Johnny, I'm good. Just send me my release. They kept sending me tickets for like 2-3 weeks to come out to do TV. I just wouldn't do it. I'm like, dude, what do you, for what, for $1,000 a week? Fuck yourself, dude. I quit. Not like that, don't get me wrong. I mean, yeah, $1,000 a week, but at the same time, I can make $1,000 working a regular job.
Right.
That's right.
You're not going to take my legacy, dude. So
I respect that.
I had to,
highly, man.
Yeah, I had to. It was just, I wasn't going to let that happen. It was a joke.
So we have a lot of responses. I'm going to pick some here and there from fans on Instagram. Cool. We put out a couple notices to see what they wanted to ask you. So I'm going to go through a few, through some of those, if that's okay with you, if you have some time for that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, totally.
Awesome. So we'll start with, I don't want to say easy, but let's see. This is Lost Boy Elias wants to know, what's your favorite match that you've ever been in? I know that's you got a lot going on there, but
I'll just say that a lot of the Jerry Lynn stuff were probably one of the best experiences I had in the ring. I'll say like Heat Wave 98 time frame with me and Jerry was probably some of the best stuff, at least fun wise. Like, you always went out there kind of knowing we're just gonna have fun, like, because people don't understand, like, it gets really scary in there when you're doing the ring entrances and stuff, until you actually connect and start wrestling and working with one another. The in-between stuff is so time consuming and nerve-wracking, because your nerves are skyrocketing. You don't know, like, is he going to be stiff? Am I going to be stiff? Are we going to fuck this shit up? Are we going to forget everything?
Yeah.
There's a lot of anxiety. So like when you finally start working, it's like, oh, things are going to be okay. This is going to work out just fine. So me and Jerry Lynn definitely for me.
That's awesome. Mike Marinelli wants to know, what are your thoughts on Dark Side of the Ring, if you've watched it?
I have watched it. I was part of it. I'm going to be part of the one that's going to air on the Plane Ride from Hell. I did
yeah. Right,
I'm gonna be on that episode. I shot it. I think like 3 or 4 months ago we shot that. So yeah, I love it. I think it's great. I think it's fantastic, and they pay really well too. By the way. I'm just
That's
saying.
a plus.
Yeah,
Got that Vice money.
Fuck yeah.
Real Cable Guy wants to know, what's the greatest rib you ever played with, either X-Pac and or Davey Boy?
Real Cable Guy is a friend from.
Yeah, he said also. Yeah, make sure you say who this is from.
Yeah. He's a good friend from Buffalo, New York. He's one of my young boys. I don't know, man. I think Davey was always the best ribber. Davey Boy was just I remember one time, and I'll say this one quick. We were in a bar in London after a pay-per-view or something, and referee Mike Chioda.
Oh yeah.
Right, Mike was. We were all in the bar. Me, Davey Boy, Mike was down there, and Mike was known as kind of a ladies' man, right? So,
Really?
but sometimes he was as the Charlie Murphy Chappelle Show skit. He was a habitual line stepper. He was a habitual line stepper. So he was always like crossing the line, and he was getting drunk. He was feeling good, and Davey Boy kind of saw it, and he's like, I think Davey might have spiked his drink, because he was kind of being obnoxious and trying to like talk all the game to all the chicks. He was like, and for some crazy reason, guys get all defensive. Like, why don't you leave some for us, dude? Here's Mike Chioda, like the ref, trying to get all the chicks. So he's like, Davey's like, we'll take care of this. So Mike's starting to go out in the bar, and he's starting to do the nod, right? So Davey Boy goes upstairs, gets his clippers. Mike finally passes out. Davey plugs in the clippers. We're in London, England, at a bar, shaves his whole head. And Mike was a very vain, young, good-looking dude, whatever. Shaved his whole head, and he was so fucked up. But the minute we had mirrors that came out of the bar, like, so as you're walking out of the bar, you're looking at mirrors in yourself. The minute Mike realized that his hair was all gone, he went from drunken stupor to like kicking out and being like, he realized what happened, dude. Then he just did like fucking the pissed off fucking thing and ran to the hotel room. And then the funniest thing was Davey Boy would always say, Mike, I didn't do it. I wasn't even there. And then the next tour, fans had pictures, because it was pre-cell phone. They were giving us pictures at the airport the next tour of Davey Boy and me holding his head, cutting it. And, we're sitting there, Mike, we didn't do it. And then the next tour, fans with the pictures of us doing the fucking deal, clipping his hair. It's silly shit, but fun stuff. I mean, you couldn't do that shit today. Everybody would be triggered.
Oh, of course.
God forbid.
Let's see. We got going through the questions. 8 Count Sports. How did you come up with your finisher?
Accident. Believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah. My original finish was going to be like a swing DDT thing. The first match, Jerry Lynn and myself, Jerry was my debut at the ECW arena, and it was his as well, as a matter of fact. Paul kind of just like did the coin flip. It didn't, it really didn't matter. We tore it down, and it was used as a high spot where we did, I picked him up for the tombstone. We did a couple of reversals. Jerry called that, actually. So I hit him with the tombstone. He kicked out. And then somewhere else, like maybe a spot later, I hit him with a swing DDT for the 1, 2, 3. When I came back, Paul said, don't do that anymore. Do the spinning tombstone. That looked cool. That looked dope. And yeah, it was just, that's how it was, by accident, really. It was just awesome. Used as a high spot. But when Paul said that looks cool, I was like, okay, cool.
That's awesome. Geek Out Elite wants to know who would have been a dream opponent to defend the ECW title against during your reign.
I defended against Scott Hall at Poughkeepsie, New York, one time.
Really?
When it's out there on YouTube. If you go look,
check
me
that
and
out.
Scott. Yeah, this is when Scott left WCW, and he was like in limbo, and I was ECW World Champion, and I was like, "Hey Scott, you want to come work with me?" So he came in. Literally, we main evented, and the reason we did it was because we used to run in ECW Poughkeepsie, New York, the Mid Hudson Civic Center, which was a huge WWE Monday Night Raw spot at back in the day. That was where 1-2-3 Kid had a lot of great matches with Razor in the day, and that's where we were doing a lot of tapings. And ECW was starting to take over that time. So I was like, Razor, let's do this. He wasn't doing anything. He was in great shape. So yeah, Scott Hall came in for a one night only thing, and we worked the main event. And he put me over, which was super cool.
That's really cool. We're actually going
to
to see Scott in New York, and when is it, John? Next month, right? We're seeing Scott.
Yes. That's at the wrestling store, I believe.
Yeah, wrestling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Ever since I was a little kid.
Jack's place, right?
Yeah. Ever since I was a little kid, Razor or Scott, whatever version of him was always like my little kid favorite.
Yeah, he's
such a cool dude.
He's a cool dude.
Which leads me to this. I don't even know what this dude's name is. Ant NYC 84 wants to know what are some of your fondest memories of those guys in the clique, if you will.
I didn't really even have any fond memories. I mean, it was just it's what you did. It's almost asking somebody when you go to work, how is it hanging out? I mean, we were just doing the grind. Yeah, I mean,
right.
It wasn't dude, I was there before Hunter. When Hunter came in, I was there for already a year and a half, 2 years. I got in 94, and Paul came in mid 95, and he brought Joni in too. So I mean, it was, and like I said, I knew Scott, and we traveled from the 94 era. He was my traveling buddy. That's how I was running with those guys. It wasn't I'm trying to run with those guys. It's okay, I need a ride.
Natural thing.
I couldn't rent a car.
Right. Yeah.
So Scott's well, I'm by myself. Come drive with me, puss. So that's, I mean, it's literally that simple. People think it's this crazy thing. It's hey, I need a ride. Oh, you need a place to go? Okay, cool. Come with us.
Do you think people romanticize or sort of
totally
over embellish
totally,
the clique,
dude.
and then
yes.
BSK and all that sort of all those,
because it was all real, but at the same time a lot of it's just bullshit. People go to work. You have a couple people you rather hang out with instead of you rather hang out with these people on the right instead of these people on the left for whatever reason, because maybe you guys are into the same shit. Whatever, it wasn't that big of a deal, and all 20 years later we're still talking about this shit, dude. It wasn't that exciting then. I don't know why it's still exciting today.
I think a lot of the stuff that WWE produces and puts out, that sort of
they're just
puts the clique on a pedestal as a group, and they always talk about the curtain call and things like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they talk about the curtain call now, and I was at the curtain call.
Really?
But fucking Paul got fucking punished for that. He almost got fired for that. You know what I mean? Hunter was supposed to win King of the Ring.
That's right. That was the year that it went over to Austin.
To Austin, yeah. And I remember being there, dude. And there was a lot of heat. So, and it was a dumb move, but he was trying to fit in. He was a mark trying to fit in, dude.
Yeah.
Hunter was the biggest poser of all time. Still is. I mean, he's a decent work or whatever, but dude, I know who he is. He's a scumbag.
Do you think he would have had the longevity that he's had it not?
Absolutely not. Not even a chance, dude. I mean, he was roided up huge, still is, which is fine, whatever, I don't care. But there's no way you could say, what are you, bitter of it? No, but it's what it is. He was built for. He knew what he wanted. From day one, he knew what he wanted. His ultimate goal was to be where he is, And
Yeah.
it was all, you know, whether it's with Stephanie or not, I don't know how their relationship is, but it was calculated. That was his goal since the minute he stepped foot on that company.
You mentioned obviously like he brought Joni, China into the company. Were you around when she was introduced into the company? And
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
how was she? And unfortunately, obviously, she's since
She was
passed away.
great. She was great. She was a sweetheart. She was a sweetheart. I mean, they were good people at the beginning, at the forefront. I mean, very humble, very good, hardworking people. Joni was she'd gone through a lot of shit. She was a good girl, worked really hard. She kind of bet all her shit on Paul, and when the China thing because that was his way to get in. Like, he brought her around. She was one of Walter's students, Walter Kowalski. So he started,
yeah.
I remember before she even got her job, she was traveling with us at times when we did the local, because he's from New Hampshire, I'm from Connecticut. He'd pick me up at home. He'd come by my crib, pick me up, we'd go on the road. So there was a lot of shit, dude. A lot of shit. I'll leave it at that.
The one thing that I want to leave off with, and this isn't from anybody that submitted this, but like, to anybody that's looking to get into wrestling, like, in 2021, like what advice would you give someone that's, watching the product now and is, wants to get involved?
If you're really serious about the business, I mean, I always assume that, because I wanted to do it forever and I took it very personally, like it's going to be my career. I always had this do or die attitude. Doesn't have to always be that way when I look back, hindsight. If it's something you want to do, as whether for fun or to make a career out of it, just work as hard as you can, meet as many people as you can, go to as many shows and work as much as you can. I think that's really the only thing I could say is just, you gotta, nobody's going to book you. If you're sitting at home waiting to get booked, you got to do that hustle. Like, your whole hustle has to be, the way I first started doing jobs for WWE was I went to house shows until somebody booked me. Literally, like, I wasn't on the card. I would go in there and bring my bag. Oh, I'm here if you need me. I'll be in the corner over there. And eventually that just started to catch on, and okay, we'll use you on this little spot over here. So just, be relentless in wanting to be around it, wanting to learn from it, and just, right place, right time will happen if you're persistent enough, and, learn from, don't take anything too seriously, but learn from your, learn from your experiences and adjust to better do it next time, and just keep pushing. This is the best thing I could say, because it's a crazy business. You could be the best in the world as a performer, but that doesn't always mean, you're gonna get a gig.
So what is next for Justin Incredible? What is the aspirations? And I know you mentioned a brief turn. You don't know.
I don't know.
We don't know either. Right now it's all up in limbo.
I do know that. I will be in the professional wrestling business for the rest of my life. But my wrestling days are numbered, especially from a serious, from a company perspective. I'll probably just do indie bookings for wrestling appearances, but for the most part, it's just having fun right now. I don't make my living off of pro wrestling anymore the way I used to, unfortunately. So yeah, it's just, now I'm just trying to just enjoy it as much as I can, because I do love it. And yeah, I just wish, one thing I do aspire, like we talked about earlier, is to get on another side of maybe producing, and getting on another side of the television aspect of the business, whether it's for a big company or a small company, but there's no immediate plans. I'm just kind of winging it at this point, no big plans.
Well, no news is good news, honestly.
Yeah,
that's how I view things. But that's all I have. Mike, you have anything else to add here, man?
I just want to say, on a personal level, when I was growing up, my mom and I would watch wrestling religiously. whatever company it was, and I want to say almost every Sunday we would go to this flea market near where we live in on the Route 18 flea market, and there was a wrestling store, and it was like floor to ceiling wrestling action figures, and there was one small section that was always just filled with ECW toys, and I'll never forget seeing a Just Incredible figure and being like, who is this guy specifically? And I always wanted that toy, and recently I saw that was it Matt Cardona, one of the dudes.
Yeah,
who made
Brian.
the pod.
He came
Yeah,
to
Brian.
my house the other day. He came to my house Friday.
Really? It was
Yeah.
that toy, and I was like, motherfucker. I was like, that was the toy I always wanted from ECW.
That's funny.
But
Well,
man,
he had
put
a
your
gig
body
in
on the line.
Connecticut. He had a gig in Connecticut, and he's like, "Can I come by the house?" I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "Oh, I just want you to sign my figure." I'm like, "Ugh, all right, we're doing this."
What a
And
mark.
Yeah. No, I love
him. I really love Brian.
Great. They're great.
I would
dudes.
honestly have done the
Great
same
dudes.
thing.
Oh, same.
But I'm actually very envious because they've done such an amazing job with what they do and how cool that is.
Oh my
right?
god,
It's
yeah.
like, it's such a cool thing. So I'm just grateful to have it. It's like, it's funny. And somebody just did a recent one. I'm trying to get this done. I don't know if it'll ever get done, but WWE, I've been petitioning, and the fans have been too. Like, somebody just recently did a video on it for TikTok that got a bunch of, hits or whatever, but an Aldo classic. How cool would that be to have an Aldo Montoya?
Seriously.
Honestly, it's a crime that you don't have a legacy contract behind you, because
I don't know why. It's not like I have heat or anything.
You have a great relationship with the company. It seems like you have all these iconic characters, and Just Incredible is is a great ECW name to make a figure of and put in the video games to go up against Rob Van Dam. Like, it's perfect. It all makes sense.
I don't know who the thing is. Things are so different now. Like, I don't even know who to contact, because the last guy that was there that I knew got fired after sending Mickey James's shit home.
We are very familiar.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
That was the only dude I knew at the time. So, like, now I don't even know who's there. Like, who do you talk to, right? But we'll see. I'm sure something will get done sometime, because they're going to run out of guys to make action figures for.
Honestly,
how many Triple H toys can we get, right?
I personally think, everybody was overreacting with the Mickey James stuff in the bag. I don't think
so, too.
I think it was just them sending her stuff. I don't think it was a fuck you, you're in the trash.
I guarantee you
I think she just asked for her stuff back, and they were like, we could just throw it in this bag and send it to her. And that's probably, if they weren't releasing her, if she was just asking for her stuff and she got in a trash bag, she probably would have never said anything. She would have never said anything. I personally, if I got my stuff in a trash bag, I wouldn't give a shit. At least I got my stuff back.
But hey, this is 2021, and when you can control the narrative, that's what it's all about, right? So whatever. Hey, it's all about fucking working the gimmick. That's all I could say. And she worked the gimmick. God bless her.
Absolutely.
God bless her.
I just want to say, thank you from the bottom of my heart. This is a small little podcasting that we got. We've been fans of you for fucking God knows
20 years now, man. Jesus.
I texted John. I was like, "Yo, Just Incredible."
No, thank you guys.
He was like, man. No fucking way, dude. What?
No, thank you guys for having me, dude. It helps me out. Like I said, times are rough for everybody. So thank you for having me on, dude. It's sweet. Very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So where can everybody find you, for everyone listening?
Absolutely. I do Instagram and Twitter. Both are at PJ Polaco. I'm on TikTok, Just Incredible 1973. And ProWrestlingTees.com /Just Incredible. I have 20 both ECW, retro, Aldo stuff, all kinds of different t-shirts. So Just Incredible, or ProWrestlingTees.com /Just Incredible, if you're interested in that kind of stuff. And pretty much it.
That's awesome.
Justin, thank you so much for being with us today. And
thank you guys so much, man.
Yeah, we'll be in contact, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a great night, fellas. Thank you.
You
Peace
take
out,
care,
man.
Peace, man. Thanks. Awesome.
Dude, what?
That's great.